Welcome back, everyone, to DSP versus the Internet, episode 64. This is part 2 for May 12th, 2024. Happy Mother's Day. And we are still in Ultra member submissions. Let's continue on with these and see what else people have to offer. Looks like we have a very weird variety of stuff coming up. This next one, I'll be honest, I'm very skeptical about this next video, how much we're going to like it. Let's take a look.
Hi guys, this is an example for calculating the resultant force for a concurrent coplanar system of forces.
I have no idea what anything he just said. A resultant? What is a resultant? Is it the same as a result? For the following system of concurrent coplanar forces, what is a concurrent coplanar force? I don't know what that means. So if I don't understand what what he's even saying in his explanation of what the video is, I don't know how I'm going to understand what the video is, right? I guess we'll just watch a little bit of it, but if it's over my head, because I'm not a heavy math guy, I guess we're just going to skip it. Let's see.
So what we have here is three forces that are seen to act at one single point. We could call that point O. And we see a 10 Newton force at 45 degrees from the horizontal. If this was the x-axis and this is the y-axis.
Okay.
We have a 5 Newton force acting 30 degrees from the negative x-axis, and a 15 Newton force acting at an angle of 60 degrees from the positive x-axis. The forces which we have here can be resolved into their x component and y component. So for example, the 10 Newton force can be replaced with a force going towards the right, where its magnitude would become 10 cosine 45, and a y component which would become 10 sine 45. Also, for the 5 Newton force, that can also be resolved into a component in the x direction.
Yeah, my problem is I don't know what he's talking about. That could also be resolved. What do you mean? What is to resolve a Newton force? What the hell does that mean? He's just using math terms that aren't layman's terms. So if I don't know what you're talking about, I'll never understand what your video is about. He doesn't even explain what he's doing. Like, why is he doing this? Why? I don't get it. Again, if you're heavily into math, you probably know exactly what he's talking about. I haven't studied math since university, which was 2004 was the last year I was in any kind of a university course. I have no fucking clue what he's talking about. So there's no point to watching this video. Here's what I'd like to do. Let's go all the way to the end. This is the end. Are you fucking serious? Look at this. This is the end of the video.
Point.
What the fuck?
Divided by 10.24.
What the fuck?
Our angle as measured in the negative direction will be equal to...
He's got a calculator, he's pulling out shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Tan of 3.42 divided by...
So who needs to know this kind of stuff? Engineers, for sure. Probably physicists, right? Anyone who has to measure movement, force, and limits of force on objects probably needs to know this stuff, and literally nobody else, right? So if you design vehicles, you design aircraft, you design homes to have to withstand force of winds and stuff like it's probably you need this, but it's such a small group of people compared to most people out there. It's like, I don't fucking know anything he's doing right now. I understand an angle, right? I get that. I don't even newtons of force. Couldn't tell you the last time in my life I had to do anything regarding newtons of force, right? Last Newton I had was a fig Newton. It was delicious. But anyway, I think we're done with this video. Whoever submitted it, I think you got out of it what you wanted. You knew I wasn't going to know what the hell was going on, right? Okay, let's continue.
If you've played a game within the past few years, you're more than likely familiar with these sounds. Now these sounds are either one of the most satisfying sounds you've ever heard, or something you just find annoying every time it pops up for the stupidest stuff like just opening up a game. You earn achievements from finishing milestones within games. For example, doing story-related sections, collecting a certain amount of useless shit, upgrading absolutely everything you can and maxing out your character, doing a certain thing, finding a specific secret. The list could go on,
what
really.
the fuck?
An achievement could be absolutely anything. Now, would you believe me if I told you all right now that these little icons for challenges could either make or break a game for someone? Now, you're probably wondering why this is. It's just a stupid icon that pops up, right? Well, there's quite a few reasons why these ruin games for people. And one of those groups of people are people who are obsessed with them. The completionists. These people refuse to move on to any other game until they've completed the game they're currently playing, even if they think the game is a steaming pile of dog shit. But being a completionist can even make you hate games you love, and that could be because of certain achievements. Achievements that really make you wonder if the game was even play tested, bashing your head against the wall, wasting
oh my god,
more
Rebel
and more of your
Dorado.
time attempting
This
to
guy,
get it, wondering.
this guy literally pulls clips out of absolutely anything. Like, he has such a hodgepodge of clips from different pop culture mediums there. Jeez.
If it's even worth it. I'm not projecting here, guys. I don't know why my editors put the Evil Within Akumu achievement on the screen right now. You'd be surprised how many games have these types of achievements. A good example is the Mein Leben achievement from Wolfenstein 2. This achievement requires you to beat the game on the hardest difficulty. Okay, now that doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, here's the catch. If you die, you have to restart the entire fucking game.
Yeah. Yep.
Wolfenstein 2 isn't the only game that has one of these achievements, by the way. Some of the bad achievements aren't even really challenging. Some can just be absolutely mind-numbingly boring. A lot of these are collectible achievements, usually found in open world games, where you have to collect 40,000 useless shit that do absolutely nothing. And I mean, these things can be absolutely anything. Saints Row the Third had sex dolls as collectibles in its boring-ass open world. It's a good thing that Breath of the Wild doesn't have any achievements, because imagine there being one for getting all the Korok seeds. To be fair, a little PNG and a little sound would be way more satisfying than getting a literal piece of shit. Yeah, that's the actual reward. These aren't just
It is? If you get all the Korok seeds, he gives you a golden piece of duty? What the hell you do with that? I mean, like, I get it. There's so many people who like to have collectibles in a game because it seems like it's giving you something to do while you're otherwise doing something that's way more streamlined. Just think about this. Imagine if you were playing a game like, let's see, Dishonored, right? Or even, hell, Fallout, Skyrim, any of these first-person RPGs. Imagine if you didn't have to collect items. All you did was go around fighting and talking. There was no item collection whatsoever, right? The game would be so streamlined that half the game would feel like it's missing, right? So I feel like that's why those games become the looter-style games that they are. And then, since the dawn of achievements, add in achievements, collect a certain amount of this, collect, you know what I mean? To make it feel like there's something more meaningful than it is. Oh, there's a good one. PS3 Troop says 200 feathers in Assassin's Creed 2. Yeah, 200 feathers just spread throughout the world. So while you're already going through this world that you have to go through in order to progress the narrative and get story elements and beat the game, you're also doing something else as busy work, an added piece to what you're doing. Because if those collectibles didn't exist, you'd feel like more like you're just traversing through the empty world, right? So I get it, but then having achievements that are just so menial and tedious, I agree with that could be really very annoying. At the same time, like someone just said, AMS just said, sometimes achievements are what make a second playthrough worth it. I mean, achievements can absolutely add some kind of replay value or added incentive to play more of a game that otherwise you would have discarded already, right? I just think that, like he said, the level of getting obsessed is kind of silly. Like, why would you get obsessed over an achievement? If it's so difficult, just don't fucking do it. Who cares, right? I mean, at one point, I remember a long time ago, people cared about, oh my, I have the highest gamer score or whatever. But at this point, it's like, who gives two shits about that anymore?
Exclusive to open world games. They can be in linear games too, usually with notes and files you find on the floor, or that one note on the fucking fridge at the start of Resident Evil Village that counts towards the achievement, and it was the only one I was missing at the time. I beat the entire game again, scouring everything, and the whole time it was just at the start. One game I personally had an issue with when it came to its achievements, or should I say trophies in this case, was the original Ratchet & Clank.
Oh.
Now if you know me and my channel, you know that I love this game with all my heart, but the trophy that requires you to earn 1 million bolts, the game's currency, can rightfully go shove one up its arse, because this trophy will
rip ya a new one.
To get this trophy, it would require you to do up to 10 plus consecutive playthroughs
Oh my
just
God.
to scrape 1 million
That's insane.
bolts. It's such a horrible grind, and it makes me wonder why the fuck this was even allowed. But see, here's the thing. This trophy didn't ruin the game for me, because in the HD remaster, the developers were too lazy to patch out the glitch where you can get an infinite amount of bolts. Bear in mind, even with this glitch, I had to leave my PlayStation 3 on all night just to get 1 million bolts for the trophy. At least I got my platinum trophy, right? Yay. Sometimes achievements can be the complete opposite of what I've just talked about, and they can be an absolute joy to try and get. Ones that have actually had some sort of thought put behind them.
It's funny, like some of the clips are just completely out of context. Like, what the hell did Breaking Bad have to do with what he was talking about there? Nothing, right? That's nuts. Yes, Fed Roger, I remember I 100% of DK64. You remember why? I told you guys I hated the game so much, I wanted to make sure there's no reason to ever go back to it. That way, if I did 100%, no one could ever say play it again, because I never want to play that game ever again in my life. So, and I did it. I 100%ed it, so you can't have a reason for me to go back to it. It's dog shit.
Resident Evil games are a good example of games with amazing achievements. Besides story-related achievements, a lot of them in the RE games are related to certain challenges that can completely change the way you experience the game. There's achievements like only using a certain weapon for the entire game, not healing once, not using the item box, or hell, Resident Evil 2 Remake has an achievement for only taking a certain amount of steps within your playthrough. And because of how finely crafted the game is around these challenge run achievements, you can actually do multiple at once if you're brave enough. I got the no healing and pistol only achievements in one run on the Resident Evil 4 Remake. It was a very fun playthrough. It made the game feel incredibly fresh and took me out of my comfort zone, which is where achievements can be extremely beneficial to enjoying a game.
Hold on. Gotta get rid of a troll. Okay. Got it. Let's continue.
Even more. Achievements can be a way for the developer to push people to try things they otherwise wouldn't do. For example, in Prey 2017, the most underrated game of all time, there are multiple—
I gotta agree with him there. Most people said they didn't like Prey. I thought Prey 2017 is a super good game. Great story, great gameplay elements. It's a shame we'll never see any more games because that's one of the studios that Xbox just closed. They just closed that wing of Arcane Studios that made Prey.
achievements that are dedicated to you using different abilities you can unlock. A lot of abilities you probably wouldn't use otherwise. There are even entire side quests in certain games that I would have never done if it wasn't for the fact you get an achievement for completing.
What the hell game is that?
Pushing me to appreciate and make the most out of the game I'm playing even more. Making you experience new things while getting a little dopamine rush while doing so. Speaking of that dopamine rush, depending on who you are, not having achievements can either make or break a game for you. There are people out there who refuse to buy any Ubisoft game on Steam just because Ubisoft are far too lazy to add any form of achievement support to the game. Yeah, but there are still achievements on Ubisoft Connect. Why are you complaining, you idiot? Shut the fuck up. No one gives a shit about Ubisoft Connect. It's a pile of dog shit. Also, if I'm gonna play a mind-numbing Ubisoft open world game, I at least want a stupid bit of dopamine seeing a Steam achievement pop up from collecting 2 million schmeckles in Assassin's Creed fucking, I don't know, Solomon Islands. So the question still remains, are achievements ruining games? Well, it entirely depends who you are.
Yeah.
For the casual player, achievements are those stupid PNGs that appear for opening a door and closing it behind you. Yep, that's an actual achievement. It's in Resident Evil 7.
Wow.
Can't make this shit up. For a majority of games, I do personally feel like the achievements aren't thought out, making them incredibly unappealing to 100%. Or if you are a completionist, ruining the game for you and possibly giving you a stress-induced migraine. But achievements never really ruin a game for most people. And when they are done right, which I think more games should focus on, they can truly enhance the experience for more people.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is this. Achievements are fine as long as you don't take them so seriously, and as long as, in my opinion, they add a reasonable reason to play a game more, right? Like if there's an achievement for beat the game on the hardest difficulty, right? And someone wants to replay your game to get it on the hardest difficulty to get that achievement, let them do that. That's fine. I have no problem with those achievements at all. But the one about collecting 1,000,000 bolts, that's stupid. There's a difference between this achievement was a challenge or something you had to work towards getting. Here's your reward, a big achievement, versus, oh, here's just something menial you can do that's a complete waste of your time. The 1,000,000 bolts in Ratchet and Clank is a complete waste of your time. There's no meaning to it. It adds nothing to the game. It's like, just waste your time to get this one, right? Versus, oh, playing a game on the harder difficulty, you're challenging yourself. It's a different experience than your first. You're getting more out of your game. Get it? That's what I would say is good about achievements, is when they have meaning and they add to that additional time invested in the game. But I don't think anyone should obsess over them. There's some people who right now, they obsess over trophies, right? I got to get the platinum in every game I play on PlayStation. It's like, why? What is the point? It's not even like, I could see if you earned a certain amount, you get rewarded. Like, what if Sony said, if you have, for every 10 platinums you earn, we'll give you a $10 credit on PlayStation Network, right? Now, that's very little compared to how long it probably takes to get those platinums, but just imagine, right? But no, it's most of them are just worthless. They don't do anything, right? So what's the point? Okay, Double M actually says one of the worst trophies in Resident Evil 4 Remake, they force you to get an S+ rank on all levels of the shooting gallery. So, master the minigame that has really nothing to do with the rest of the game. That is kind of stupid. Okay, let's keep going. What is next?
This video is brought to you by Trends, the online community specifically for business and tech entrepreneurs. Get a 2-week trial.
I don't care.
Bombers, mob bosses, drug kingpins, spies, murderers.
America's Toughest Prison from 3 years ago. Okay, the Florence Supermax.
These men live in solitary confinement in cells that are purposefully designed to prevent prisoners from escaping or causing a disruption. In other words, it's hell on earth. But this place isn't the invention of an author's imagination. It's very real. The USP Florence AdMax, located near Florence, Colorado, is the United States' federal government's supermax prison.
I mean, at first glance, that doesn't even look like a prison, does it? I mean, once you go a little bit to the left and you see the fence, yeah, but that totally doesn't even look like a prison to me at all. I couldn't even tell you what kind of a building that is. I think maybe an office building. I don't know. Who knows, right? Huh.
They keep inmates who are too violent, too dangerous, or too much of a threat to national security to be kept anywhere else. And it is also one of the country's most controversial prisons. While some claim it makes everyone safer, including the prisoners, others have called it a clean version of hell and in violation of the US Constitution's 8th Amendment, barring cruel and unusual punishment.
Really?
But why was this steel and concrete monolith built? How does it work? And who exactly is sent there?
Find out. Interesting. So this will be a direct comparison. If you remember last week, we saw a video about security guards who work at the maximum security prison in Singapore. Let's compare the two, right?
In the latter half of the 20th century, officials in the Federal Bureau of Prisons found themselves dealing with a problem. How do you punish criminals who have already been sentenced to life imprisonment and who commit murder while in prison? In the past, the solution would have been to execute them, but capital punishment has been on the wane in the United States for years. For instance, only 3 people were executed by the US federal government between 1963 and 2020.
Wow.
The problem is prisoners serving life sentences are among the most dangerous, often with a history of violence, and they have nothing to lose. This makes them dangerous to other prisoners and to the prison guards as well. 26 federal corrections officers have been murdered by inmates in the line of duty. 2 of these officers, Merle Cutts and Robert Hoffman, were stabbed to death on October the 22nd, 1983 by members of the prison gang, the Aryan Brotherhood, at the federal prison in Marion, Illinois. At that time, the prison in Marion was where the federal government sent its worst offenders. It was an old-style, open-population prison with very little to differentiate it from lower-security facilities.
You know what it reminds me of? You ever see the TV show Oz? That's exactly what that reminds me of. So it's high-risk, gang-related, criminals put into an open population prison. Probably not a good idea. But you ever see the TV show Oz on HBO? That's pretty much what that whole show was about.
except for the amount of violent incidents. The murder of the two guards prompted Norman Carlson, the director of the Bureau of Prisons, to take action. He ordered that Marion Prison be locked down permanently. He argued that the inmates who had murdered the guards were already serving life sentences, and sentencing them to additional time did nothing to deter them. The solution, therefore, was to keep them isolated from each other and from the guards as much as possible. The supermax prison had been born.
Okay, so this is when it was invented, the 80s.
At Marion, permanent lockdown meant keeping prisoners in their cells in solitary confinement for 22 to 23 hours a day, only being let out for an hour or two to exercise or for other things that couldn't be done in their cell. This control unit, or super maximum security, later shortened to just supermax, was considered the harshest confinement conditions allowed under federal law, reserved only for the worst of the worst. However, Norman Carlson petitioned the US government to go even further. The permanent lockdown at Marion was a good start, but what the BOP really needed was a purpose-built facility where the supermax concept could be put into practice more effectively than at Marion. Carlson continued to advocate for this facility even after his retirement in 1987. Finally, as part of the Clinton administration's pledge to be tough on crime, they allocated $60 million to build
I've probably seen that headshot of Bill Clinton, you know, thousands of times. They always use that one headshot of Bill Clinton in everything from the 90s. It's funny. The same fucking shot over and over.
dedicated supermax.
How long is this? Oh, it's a long video. Man, I didn't realize it was that long because I'm actually interested. But we do have to split the part soon. Maybe we'll continue this in the next part. Maybe we will. Because I really want to see the comparisons.
Residents of rural Fremont County, Colorado already had 3 federal prisons as neighbors, but welcomed the construction
I don't need to hear the history of how it was made. I want to see what it's like on the inside. He's just going through the history of how it was made, so... All right, here we go.
Prisoner shows good behavior. He may be let out for longer periods of time, including being allowed to interact with other prisoners. At the end of 3 years, if he hasn't caused additional disruptions, he can be transferred out of Florence to a less restrictive facility to serve out the remainder of his sentence. The cells at Florence are built to prevent a prisoner from doing anything to harm himself or others. Each cell has a bed, stool, and desk made out of poured concrete that melds seamlessly with the floor and walls, making them immovable. The toilet has its own valve on it that can be shut off if the prisoner tries to flood the cell by blocking it up. The cell has a built-in shower that operates on a timer, also to prevent flooding. The sink does not have a tap, just buttons to prevent the prisoner from disassembling the plumbing on it to use as a weapon. Each cell also has a window 4 inches wide and 4 feet long that...
Okay, so this is a good look at the maximum security cell. All the shelves are concrete, so you can't break them off and use them for anything. Even the stool is stationary concrete. The window is a tiny 4-inch slit in the wall, so you can't ever get in or out. Even the bed, they said, was a slab, right? And like you said, the sink and the toilet are button operated, so you can't flood the cell. You're going to only push it, and they said that's the shower in the front corner, and that's basically auto-activated at certain times of day, so you have to memorize when is shower time to get in there and shower, and after that, it just turns off. And that way you can't flood the cell, you can't drown, because there's not enough water to do so, right? I mean, that's fascinating. Everything is just really controlled. I wonder, like, what's the most dangerous thing in that cell? Number one, smashing your head on the concrete, which I guess is just not preventable. How could you stop someone from smashing their head on the concrete, right? And I guess number 2 would be doing something with the TV. If the TV can be moved, I don't know. But outside of that, like, you can't really do much besides just, like, run into stuff, right?
It is designed to prevent a prisoner from knowing exactly where in the facility they're located, hindering any escape planning. As a further security measure, the inmates are rotated into different cells every 3 months. Each cell has a camera monitoring the inmates' activities inside the cell, one of over 1,400 throughout the complex. For 1 hour a day, inmates are taken out of their cells to an exercise pit, which looks like an empty concrete swimming pool. It is also designed to prevent prisoners from knowing where they are within the prison, and it is only big enough for a prisoner to walk 10 steps in a straight line or 31 steps in a circle. Their cells can also be fitted with a TV and radio, and they are provided with books or other items that the guards deem safe for them to have. While at Florence, prisoners aren't permitted visitors and usually aren't permitted to have any contact with the outside world, not even through letters or phone calls.
Huh, wow.
Florence has been called escape-proof because of its heavy security. It has over 1,400 remote-controlled steel doors, and motion detectors and cameras are everywhere. In the control center, corrections officers monitor the inmates 24 hours a day. They have a panic button, which can trigger a prison-wide lockdown that shuts every door in the prison if they suspect an escape attempt is in progress. If, by some chance, a prisoner makes it out of the building, they still have to contend with the perimeter featuring pressure pads and a 12-foot high fence topped with razor wire, as well as regular patrols of armed guards who are trained to shoot to kill rather than allow a dangerous prisoner to escape custody.
All right, so this is a good place, I feel, to split the part. I'm actually fascinated with this video, and I do want to continue it in the next part. I want to hear what kind of people are in this maximum security prison. But just the idea, so it's a 3-year stint in the supermax prison. If you have good behavior, then they'll let you have interaction with other prisoners and or time out of the cell. But outside of that, you don't get much time out of the cell. You have to have good behavior. And you can, if you're really good, within 3 years, they'll transfer you out to a more general population prison. But I wonder, like he said, I think the people who get in here are people who already were like life in prison people, lifers, who murdered someone while in prison, and therefore they deem them too much of a risk to themselves and the guards and the other inmates. They have to put them in a different prison, and this is where they go. Damn. I mean, you have to wonder how many people are like that. And I guess we're going to find out because they're about to say Rogues Gallery. We're going to get our answer. So, all right, anyway, guys, thank you so far. Good show. I'm enjoying myself. I hope you guys are too. And I will see you in the next part of episode 64 of DSP versus the Internet.